interacting with them.
Thank you.
But Maria is one of the most exciting and prominent researcher and professor in within the European and international context. She was for a long time University of Cardiff, where she definitely left a great work, and I begin to follow it loosely. Then throughout, let's say, online, we haven't met yet, but this I hope will happen soon. I follow also her passage to Stuttgart, where in one of the most known international group when it comes to digital design, but she has an edge, a very interesting edge, and this is about systemic thinking and also about creating solutions that are digitally based, but yet very found into biophilic design. If I can simplify the topic as such, but I'm sure Maria will explain it further. And please also, Maria, add anything that I've missed about your profile. There is much more. And therefore, I turn the camera to the class. I leave fully the floor to you. And it's exciting to listen.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So it's nice to see you all. Thank you. Thank you for your attention. And I think I will just start. So I will be talking about systemic thinking in architectural and urban design, right? And
Exactly.
I will start with with Gregory Bateson. We are just so happy we received the grant to research his work more further yesterday. But I will actually start with his citation. What pattern connects the crab to the lobster and the orchid to primrose, and all of them to me and to you? And I will get to multi-centered design. That means that there is not like a hierarchical system with the leader on the top who gives you the idea, but there are several centers of people's thoughts, or not only people's. We will get to that it's not only people's. We often start with the people, but what are the multi-centered design, right? And we will be discussing about that there is nothing like a real thing, because exactly multi-centered design means that every center has the center of their own truth, and you have so many truths, and people need to find out, negotiate, and synergize their own stories, right? And we will be connecting what is with what if, which means like we don't want to do the research like what has been already done, but we want to ask what if this can develop somehow, right? For cross-beings co-living. And when I talk about cross-beings co-living, I talk about humans, other species, artificial intelligence, and robots. So just a simple diagram I did some time ago about how do we work. So we start with the people before we start with the other beings. And we ask everybody to do the minimap, to map their own universe within the project. So they map their minimap, and then we ask them all to develop a gigamap. They relate the minimaps in the gigamap and find synergetic solution. They present each of their universe to everybody, and by that they develop an empathy, and they start understanding each other, and when they are relating to each other, they find out that maybe they can find out something they could do together. And that thing they find out that they could do together, the synergetic solution, is full-scale prototype with the community all together. And then there is a reflection. Then we put it within something I call real life co-design laboratory, which is the real environment where we place the prototype and it interacts with real life, with real stakeholder, and that is already with multi-beings perspectives, because everybody interacts with it, every species, whoever is there interacts with that. And then we have a reflection, and this goes in feedback loops, and we develop our designs and redesign them, and also on all around. So this is an example of how one of my students mapped the relationships of the minimaps. This is minimap of the team of the students, and they mapped the relationships between the different universes. And all these lines here are interpretations of the relations. The interpretations of the relations are very important, because it is very easy to just draw an arrow between the relationship, but you have to understand the relation. And if you understand the relation, you can come up with the synergetic proposal. This is a bit more advanced map of my students from Cardiff as well, where each had their piece of the cake, and they were circularly searching for relations all together, and proposed some urban intervention in Grangetown community. I will get back to that later. This is just simple example when this happens with small workshops on the table with the board, where the students here are supposed to design a synergetic bridge proposal. So everybody draws their minimap, and then they are searching together, and then they have the sticks to build it together. This becomes a bit more messy when we work with the communities, which is the nicest thing, where none of those rules really work so gently as I showed you. But it is the most fun, and it gives you a lot of work to interpret those interventions, but it's very good. This is when it happens. You know, sometimes we do co-design workshops and sometimes nobody comes. That also happens. So we just go to the local pub where there are people in local pub. So we had an event in the library. Nobody came to the library, so we went to the local pub, brought our prototypes, and it is very important that you have tangible objects for co-design, and people are very interested in that and search what they can do about. So this is when these things are co-designed and things are built in real life. This is pavilion we built in Prague, and this is the dancer Jana Brana, and light performance or projection performance by Lunchmeat, who interpreted the urban intervention of the pavilion. And it is very important because they co-design the interpretation of the intervention. So in fact, it gets another meaning. So it's certainly something else what we meant, and it's something more, and it's becoming part of the community. This is, of course, not just by humans. This is a blackbird who interpreted our pavilion as the street furniture or urban furniture for birds. And this is very important because you know that people put those needles in the windows so that birds cannot sit there. And that is a big problem because the birds in the city don't have where to sit, and they might die of exhaustion or just not finding a spot to be. So having this mobiliary for other species than just humans in the urban environment is very important. This is just an example of a tree house we built. This tree house doesn't lie on the tree. It is self-standing structure, but it couldn't stand without the tree, because if the wind blows, it would fly away, right? So it is attached to the tree, but it is not giving it any weight or anything, and it is growing and dancing with the winds with the tree. The future sort of idea is that we grow ivy instead of having the ropes, so that would be another task to do. And on the platform we grew moss, and that moss was extending edible and habitable landscape in the environment. And it is very important. You see here we have the fabric for the times we are there, but it is just a weekend cabin, and for the times nobody is there, it is extending edible and habitable landscape, and it can live with that. And when we come, we can sleep on the moss bed, right? It's very nice. So let's get to the hyper objectivity. This is my friend, urban ecologist, who worked with me on several projects, including this one. And she's showing here kids how to make seed bombs with honey blooming plants. And these honey blooming plants are very important for the environment. It's on a urban biotope, which is lying on the biocorridor in the city center of Prague. And people were not really engaging the understanding the importance of the biocorridor and biotope, and they wanted to turn it into build-up area. So we made the public engagement, and the best how you can make the public engagement is to go through kids, because you can see this mother, right? Her kids is interested, and then the mother is interested because her kid is interested. Maybe she wouldn't care at all if her kid was not interested. So we made kind of a social movement through the children who actually started to do this seed bombing. You see, they were putting their seed bombs, and they were actually taking care of their seed bombs. They were watering them and taking care that the seed bombs bloom and so on. And these seed bombs are actually food for the insect in this responsive food insect hotel. I will get to responsive food a little bit later on, explain a bit of the concept. But basically, this is insect hotel that supports biodiversity through generating different climatic conditions, chambers through responsive wood. And the species who live there actually ate this honey from these honey blooming plants, and that doesn't end. This is another alteration from Cyprus. This doesn't end.
Actually, Maria, it's funny. I've been that's in Nicosia, right?
Yeah.
I was visiting professor in that building, actually. Small world. Yeah. Okay,
nice.
sorry.
Yeah. So these insects are edible landscape for these birds. We did ornithological study. Who is living there? So these insects are fast food restaurant. So this insect hotel is a fast food restaurant for these birds and bats that are living in the neighborhood. And by that, you are supporting the biodiversity. We also engage a lot with social events. So this is, for instance, Big Prague Festival experience the city other way, which they close the streets from cars, and everybody from the neighborhood presents themselves. So we presented how to mix your mixture for the bird food to teach the kids. It's in the autumn, so it is timely. So in the autumn we teach, like, because people don't understand that they shouldn't feed birds with rice, but because the species developed on the fields in Czechia, therefore they have to eat what is grown in Czechia, and rice doesn't grow in Czechia. So we were just teaching them the simple principle. Whatever local you have in your wardrobe, that's what you should feed the birds. We were also playing with, like, these augmented reality urban games, making sure that there is a public awareness about the biocorridor, biodiversity, and the problem of planetary boundaries on our planet, right? What we would do more, because, like, if you have one of these intervention, it doesn't really change the world, right? I mean, we are very much aware of that if we make one insect hotel, not much really happens. So we put the QR code on that insect hotel, also because we do those projects as sort of developing. Many people were checking what is that weird pineapple on the tree, and people were tagging me on Facebook. Marie Davidová can answer. So we decided to put a QR code to explanation what is this weird pineapple on the tree. We didn't do only that. We put the grasshopper code and the link to evaluation version of Rhino, and explanation, like kind of like cartoon of how you can make that prototype yourself. So we engaged with DIY. So suddenly that intervention that takes people's attention is generative, because people scan the QR code and find out that they can reproduce it on their garden. We of course engaged also with other communities like Rhino News and makers communities and so on. But that thing that it is actually telling you in the urban space, like this you can do in your garden, and we are telling you how it's very important. We now have many more recipes done by my Cardiff students. So this is the link to my blog. Where you can find the recipes. The blog is becoming inherently messy, but you can find the recipes, and you can DIY some of these projects yourself if you want. I must say not many of them are so great, but they are something. This is after years, because we were forced to actually put this insect hotel down and move it to another location, because unfortunately the city municipality doesn't really work with us that well. So they told us that they want to fell down all the trees because they want to make some plumbing or something, so we had to move it. So this is after a few years when we removed it, and now it is located at the Prague Institute of Planning and Development of the city of Prague. What we started to work later on in Cardiff is speculating about multi-species economy. And that is based on the easy sort of assumption that, you know, like all our economy is dependent on the overall ecosystem, right? You don't have a harvest without pollinators. And however, nobody cares about pollinators. Nobody invests into generating meadows for pollinators because the pollinators don't have money and they don't pay for that. So we started speculating about blockchain. We just got to token-based economy. I will get to that later. But we started speculating about blockchain economy, which would actually lead to that the pollinator is paid for the pollination, and the farmer has to pay the pollinator for pollinating their harvest. And in the same time, when people DIY our recipes, they can be paid by the pollinators for extending edible and habitable landscapes for them. So that is the idea. We generated an app that is, as I said, only token-based, not blockchain, and that one is only in that sense that one acts on behalf of, like a butterfly, or one acts on behalf of the bird or something. So it's very human-based. I will get to that later. How we are working on that now. We want to make it non-human based. At this moment, somebody acts on behalf. Here is the QR code to the link to the app. You can check it. As I'm saying, it's really a prototype, so it's not very well developed. But yeah, it's something. It's the first step. Be a bit open to that. And now I will get to the typology of architecture. This is a project in which we did with my colleague in Collaborative Collective many years ago. You see, 2011. It was competition entry, and in this competition entry, you know, the task was to make the Museum of Vernacular Culture, and it had to be the most like energy efficient, so it shouldn't have consumed any energy. And in the same time, it was supposed to keep the same climate. So very difficult task, right? And that time I was very much impressed by the research about responsive wood, and I said to my colleague, let's use responsive wood. It will be airing where the humidity is low, and we can use this climate moderation by the responsive wood concept. Basically, responsive wood concept is that it is airing where the humidity is low and the temperature high, whilst it is closing when the humidity is high and temperature low. So it is perfect for this vernacular sculptures object, vernacular cultures object. So what my colleague taught me that time said, go and make a research for 3 years, make a PhD in that, and then come back and apply that to practice. You cannot apply some concept you just read about in newspapers in the practice. So I did. This is the prototype I built in my first year of my responsive wood research studies. that is airing where the humidity is low and the temperature high. This is how it is when the temperature, when the humidity is high and the temperature low. I will get this algae has a very special importance to that. I will get to that later. And this is where is the kind of where I got that idea. I got that idea through the research from AA by Michael Hansen and Achim Menges, but they were all actually like following the research through Norwegian traditional architecture. So this principle was used in Norwegian traditional architecture. And I did the research. I traveled through Norway and studied what can be the use of it, right? Not only that competition entry, but I studied this semi-interior spaces. Basically, they work as onion principle. You have interior, exterior, and semi-interior, and that semi-interior works instead of insulation, and they work several purposes. They work for multi-species co-living, as well as for loading capacity, you know, like social capacity, whatever. They are very different. This one, you know, you have birds nesting, wasps nesting in here, and this is kind of this is what I call responsive transformer, because you can take all those planks away based on the use and the climate, and make this building completely different than when it's fully covered. Depends what you need. This is another one. You know, all this can be removed based on the use and the climate comfort, what you need. And what I did was the research. Here you have fantastic example that algae grows inside of those, and I kind of like monitored not only the hard data, like what is the temperature, moisture content of the wood, and relative humidity in the exterior, semi-interior, and interior spaces in summer and winter. But I also followed like what are the uses and whether they offer shelter for other species, and whether they offer some sort of cross beings co-living, because and that is very important. And no matter whether it was like on purpose or not, but these vernacular architectures offer opportunities for cross beings co-living, while today architecture don't. And you know, like that is a very important part of what we like today with climate change. And these are the studies from the places with climate extremes, where all these places with climate extremes offer opportunities for cross beings co-living. And today we are experiencing climate extremes even in moderate climates, and we need to learn from those vernacular cultures, because they were supporting biodiversity, and we have to support biodiversity, because the species don't have place to nest. The same when I showed on the blackbird who doesn't have where to sit. We have to offer the opportunities for other species to live with that. But however, I I completely understand nobody wants to live with a slug in their living room. When I moved to UK, actually there were many slugs in my living room and I found it uncomfortable. But if you have those semi-interior spaces, you are happy to live with slugs. Many people are sharing now on their Facebooks and whatever, like how pigeons are nesting on their balconies, and everybody is enjoying that. You don't want a pigeon in your living room, but you want it on your balcony. So that is just the data I was measuring. I extended the study, and I will just because we don't have too much time, I will scroll down through this. So this is the discussion about the places with extreme climates, and that's just from my journeys where I was following these breathing walls. This is from Cappadocia, where people lived together with pigeon. I will get back to that later. And I monitored the climate and social and cross-species performance. This is from, and I monitored that both from for architecture and urban environment, because it is very important. For instance, this tree, if this wall generates wind circulation. If there was not a wind circulation, this tree would drought out. So this is very important intervention through architecture. So I was basically like putting points on all of those. This is something probably everybody of you knows, Lucio Costa from Brazil, Masharabia from Morocco, Norway. You've seen that, and I implemented all these properties into my responsive screen that is supposed to deal with different extremes, not only extreme heat and extreme droughts, but also extreme humidity and extreme cold. So I actually collected those school of thoughts from different extremes climate and intervened them into my design. So you can see like this is following all the parameters. I would get just back to that. This is that example from Cappadocia, and that is very interesting example. That's when people lived together with pigeons. So the human dwellings were down there, and the pigeon dwellings were up there, and they lived in symbiosis, and they couldn't live without each other. That was a culture that was hiding from Muslim invasion. It was Christian culture in Turkey, and you know that those cave dwellings were connected by ventilation shaft. And that ventilation shaft was actually because the pigeons increased the heat, so there was an air circulation, so the people could live also in these caves without any harm. And also it was a symbiosis because people used the droppings of the pigeons as the fertilizer. So in otherwise like semi-arid landscape, they could grow some vegetables and so on. So they co-lived, and they, on the other hand, they offered the habitation to the pigeons. This is something more of the climatic discussion. This is from underground city, when this ventilation shaft led to wells, and also it secured the air circulation of the underground cities, also of the cultures that were temporarily hiding from the Muslim invasions. And I mapped this and also mapped, if we get, I was of course mapping the what were the structures and what were the orientations, but I also mapped like what were they lived together in these caves with farm animals, with pigeons, and so on. I mapped the time-based thing because, for instance, in underground they lived only during the time of the invasion. In the other caves, they lived more permanently. So how this can be applied to architecture? This is another competition entry we did, and it is robotic architecture that is adapting towards the climate and towards the social needs. And all these surfaces offer an edible and habitable landscape. It's near the forest. It's on the edge of the city. It's by the forest, and it is extending edible and habitable landscape with offering food and habitation for other species. So this is just the structure when it's enclosed and people move through the structure. This is the inspiration because they had a problem with underground water, so we said we will have wells, and we will not only have wells, but we will have that cold air circulation leading through the wells to generate the climate comfort. So this is when it moves and we have different climate and different social needs when people need to focus in the smaller cluster. And this is the edible and habitable landscape, which was designed by landscape ecologists. Some is for people, some is for other species. It's for everybody. And this is like one cell where you can see in the middle there is the shaft from the well. There is a staircase, and these blue parts are unclimatized parts that are adding the construction. And then in the inside you have the climatized part, and it is insulated by the edible and habitable landscape from here. So here is the explanation of one cell where you have this responsive wood that is adding that unclimatized space, and it is generating the natural ventilation through the cell. So this is the responsive wood screen. Just to get back, and this is the simulation, like how it airs when it's completely open, and this is how it's ventilating when it's half closed. Of course, it wouldn't be of interest to show how it airs when it's closed because there is nothing. And now I get to why is the algae so important. So the algae is so important because it moderates the moisture of the wood. By my research, I actually measured that there is 10% difference in moisture content on the wood where the algae is growing and where it is not. And it moderates that when you have heat and you want to air, it warps more, so the screen is breathing more. But when there is high relative humidity and low temperature, it doesn't warp the other direction, and that is because the algae absorbs the moisture. And even before I was talking with a lot of biologists, they told me no algae will grow on south orientation. They do because they get moisture from the wood. And now I get to what we do here in Stuttgart. So we are applying this research I discussed This is a responsive wood insect hotel, but we developed something like cybernetic system. So this is a habitable landscape where the insects live, and this is edible landscape where the insects get their food. And what we are doing is that we are using image recognition to collect the information when the pollinator is pollinating. And that's what we do for recognizing the value of the pollination. And that goes to the idea of multi-species economy, that in the future, that would be artificial intelligence recognizing the ecosystemic performance of other species and giving them the value for that. So, for instance, the artificial intelligence would recognize that the pollinator is pollinating, and then if they collect enough data that the pollinators are pollinating, they buy a meadow for them. So the pollinators have their wallet, and they can act within the multi-species economy. This is something just as an example. We always do the public events, integrate the community and engage the community. This is a dance performance where this is the important thing. We have the QR code, so we engage the community to get it, and you always have to make a good party for those things, right? So I will just start concluding. This is a gigamap which I did many years ago about quite a few of my projects, from completely open to semi-closed, and I mapped the different agency within those projects and the different uses and agency actually. And to get to that, like I concluded that what is engaging the most biotic and abiotic agents is also the most beneficial for humans. So if we talk about like human-centered design, I mean the human-centered design is actually non-anthropocentric. What you get for the humans is the most important is to be non-anthropocentric, because it brings the most benefits to the humans as well. So I would like to discuss the transition towards post-Anthropocene, towards biodiversity and climate change adaptation. For multi-centered multi-being design, we are all dependent on our overall ecosystem, living and non-living. However, our recent economic models do not reflect it, and that's why we face the mass extinction. We have to discuss the transition from human-centric to non-anthropocentric, and this can be done by research by design through feedback loops, through collective gigamapping using digital technologies, which we are now applying in my contemporary research, ecosystemic prototypical interventions, hyper-objective relations, and historical reference studies, as I showed. I would like to discuss, I really love like young girl, but I would really like to discuss the transition from cities for people towards the participation of both biotic and abiotic agency in one feedback looping ecosystem, the real-life co-design laboratory. And this real-life co-design laboratory future vision, we are not there yet, but that's where we would like to get, is living ecosystem community, small collaborative robots and artificial intelligence, and blockchain regenerative economy. The living ecosystem community is based on co-design, DIY of the prototypes and robots, and redesign through real life. The small collaborative robots and artificial intelligence is based on DIY ecosystem building, real-life maintenance through robots and machine learning, real-life redesign through robots and machine learning. The blockchain regenerative economy is based in biotic agency appreciation acted on behalf of artificial intelligence, biotic agency appreciation acted on behalf of artificial intelligence, and real-life values redesigned through the bottom-up. So thank you very much for your attention. If you are interested in this research, please scan this QR code. All my applications are actually open access, and you can follow me on ResearchGate and read them all for free. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just don't know how to unshare.
Just wrapping up in a minute. This is something, I know it's not ecological, but you may print it and attach in your room for all the week for your project. You have all the elements for your project here. That's why this is very timely. You have the chance to think from an anthropogenic development to an ecocentric development for this week of design advancement. Also, it's the second important outcome of this lecture is how Maria is able to decode nature and try to understand what are the links or the mislink, and have a systemic and create newer systemic loops, which also ended up into an architectural characterization. There is also poetry in this type of development. You're pretty skilled digitally, right? We have Arturo Tedeschi as a teacher here, so we couldn't be anywhere we shouldn't. So we should really try to engage into the parametric activity this week before the final review. So try to understand how can you catch some correlation and make them as promoting this integration between human and nature. Because we are being kicked out from this table, because there is this table serves for the office as lunch, I would like to ask Maria if it's possible to perhaps take if any have a question, we'll forward to you by email or curiosity. And I'm sorry there is no space for a debate. This is totally my fault.
I took too much time, sorry.
No. Yes, actually, this morning was 3 blast lectures, so it was really impossible to stop anyone. So that's why we are in this situation. It's
okay.
So I'm sorry that there is no debate, just for because there are people, you know, with a gun on my head. But thank you so much, and really this lecture, it's a masterpiece for us and very influential for the students. I'm speaking loudly for them.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invitation. I really enjoyed